like we mentioned earlier in the program tonight, near the end of last night's debacle on CNN, a network that has forever, like I said last night, has forever destroyed its credibility now. It's nothing but another media mouthpiece for extremists, crazy people in this country. It's astonishing. I would hate to be somebody that worked at CNN right now. How do you how do you hold your head up, I guess the expression, and say, oh yeah, I work for CNN. When I worked there, I used to think, wow, hey, I work for CNN. Ooh. But near the end of and the reason I said it is because the alliance they made with Tea Party extremists in this country, people who want to destroy America. Can you imagine, and I think Robert Perry brought this up, I'm going to get to his blog or his column in a moment, but I think Perry brought up, can you imagine CNN pairing with MoveOn.org to sponsor a debate? Or not a debate, but whatever the hell that was last night. Can you imagine Wolf Blitzer and all the other horses in the CNN stable pairing up with Michael Moore to sponsor? No, you cannot. And why is that? Because CNN would never do it. But pairing up with extreme neo-fascists in this country to display the hate America attitude that all 8 of these candidates display, CNN has no problem with that. Jesus God. People wonder sometimes why I get so negative. Are you kidding me? But aside from that, we'll get that in a second. Last night, Ron Paul got a question from the Mossad agent Wolf Blitzer, who asked Ron Paul, what do you tell a guy who is sick, goes into a coma, and doesn't have health insurance? Who pays for his coverage? Are you, Blitzer was implying, are you, as a libertarian, are you saying society should just let him die? Well, before Ron Paul had a chance to answer, people in the audience screamed out, yeah! And Wolf Blitzer never missed a beat. He didn't turn around with a look on his face and say, what is wrong with you people? No, of course not. Wolf Blitzer, he's a journalist, right? He is a journalist. He would never think to editorialize by turning around and saying, are you people insane? Or by doing something as insane as pairing up with a neo-fascist organization like the Teabaggers to present an, what was it, hour and a half, 2 hour long session of garbage polluting the airwaves. No, I'd never do that. Wow. And then Ron Paul, this poor, ignorant son of a bitch. He and his son, they look like a couple of, a couple of aliens who just are caught in the headlights, and they stare back at human beings. They don't know what the hell to say. They stare back at people who do depend on government. And they stare at them like, Well, there was Ron Paul. And he didn't say anything to the crowd either. Like, are you sick bastards really going to vote for one of us? Are we really? He didn't turn to the other candidates and say anything like, are we looking for those kind of votes? No, of course not. What Paul did was try to explain how, more or less, this is the choice of a free society. Somebody wants to be sick and be in a coma with no insurance? Well, then die. By implication. Of course, the audience was right. Then die. Now, do you remember when Alan Grayson just got ripped to pieces because he suggested exactly the same thing? Or he didn't suggest it, but he pointed out exactly that this was the Tea Party or the Republican attitude. Do you remember? Do you remember? Huffington Post asked Grayson what he thought of the crowd cheering for the death of the uninsured man. And he writes, quote, "My speech on the floor of the House was about the fact that I'd been listening to the Republicans for months, and they literally had no plan to help all those millions of people who can't see a doctor when they're sick. So I said, instead of a wry manner, that their plan was, don't get sick. All I really wanted to do was call attention to the stark absence of Republican plan. But Fox News, trying to take the heat off Joe Wilson and Sarah Palin, I guess, transmogrified that into a charge that Republicans want to kill people. What you saw last night is something much more sinister than not having a health care plan. It's sadism. Pure and simple. It's the same impulse that led people in the Colosseum to cheer when the Lions ate the Christians. And that seems to be where we're heading. Bread and circuses without the bread. The world that Hobbes wrote about. Quote, the war of all against all, end quote. So what Alan Grayson's trying to point out, he said this. He said this is what the Republicans want. Don't get sick, and if you do get sick, hurry up and die. If you don't have health insurance. Because nobody's going to take care of you. And remember the uproar. And as Grayson says, Fox, the Rupert Murdoch terror organization, tried to whip that up into a frenzy. But Alan Grayson was exactly right. And you saw it last night. Let him die! Yeah! And nobody on that stage. And Wolf Blitzer, the Mossad agent, nobody said a word.
The cops want someone to bust down on Orleans.